Welcome everybody. I'm Daniel Brown, editor of Digital Signage Today. I'm really excited about our topic. We're here to talk about from frontline to back office, bridging the gap with disconnected workers, which is a central concern for a lot of businesses. And we've got a couple of very special guests today. Marissa, do you want to kick off our introductions?
I sure will. I'm Marissa Landon with Wayne-Sanderson Farms. We're the third largest poultry producer, and we have about 26,000 employees.
So just a small business. And Oscar, how about you? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, Oscar Castillo. I am working with Northrop Grumman in our space park facilities down in Redondo Beach, California. We put together some amazing products, things like the James Webb Space Telescope you might have heard of. My role is in working with digital transformation projects, which includes our digital signage project.
I love that. I got to cover, we had a keynote by the former director of the James Webb Telescope program at Detroit Automate last year. And what an amazing project. That was so cool. So thank you guys for what you did for space. This is amazing. But we're not talking about space. We're talking about my passion, which is digital signage. And I gather that you two have done some pretty innovative work. You came in maybe as newbies to digital signage and quickly became experts. And I want to kind of kick us off with one of the hottest topics that people struggle with, which is content. I'm curious, what are the main types of content that you display on your screens, and how do you balance sort of the organizational content versus that operational content? And Marissa, I might start off with you. How do you balance those two things in your content?
Yeah, so first I'll start off with like what type of content that we display on our screens. So pretty regularly we have monthly safety content, monthly diversity content, and monthly benefits content that we push down from a corporate level. We also have some localized content that is submitted to us or that we push out if we have, an operational update, or if we have like a food drive going on in a location, things like that. We try to be very strategic about the things that we push out just to make sure that our message is getting heard. In terms of like organizational versus operational, like I said, we push out corporate content, and then our locations have the opportunity to, submit their messaging. And we're also actually moving in an expansion. We're going to move to where our locations will have control of their localized content, and they will be given a toolkit that they need to, be successful in that.
So there's a mix of top down and also the localized, like you can have your own messaging, production, safety, you name it.
Yeah, we feel like it's important that like our local people know what's going on in their communities. They know what's going on in their facilities. And we really want them to take ownership of that content and to help us communicate those messages.
And do you have a dedicated team that creates all the content?
I'm the one that posts the content, and we have two graphic designers on staff that helps us create our content.
Impressive. I'll have some follow-ups about that in a second, but Oscar, I'm curious, have you had a similar experience? Is it all top down or does it have a mix?
Well, it is definitely a mixture. I mean, from the beginning of our digital signage journey, we've always used our system to support our organizational communication needs. Things like celebrating individuals or teams on their achievements, like we had a spread on when JWST launched, right? But in addition to that, the system has also served as a great conduit to support the corporate communications or sector level communications that we were talking about before. And that's really important, getting that out to the production floor, right? People aren't in front of their computers all day long. But with that said, that's, maybe the organizational communication. With that said, our project originally set out to meet two operational communication needs. One, as much as possible, we wanted to automate the creation and delivery of our digital signage. And two, maybe more to Marissa's point, we wanted our lab managers to own and control the messaging going out to their floors, right? So that meant we gathered loads of user feedback to build a number of dashboards that were driven by data, our operational data. And that would provide the production floor with a really tailored perspective of their data, their operational data. Things like priority, status jobs, the availability and expiration dates of consumable materials, even the status or readings of various pieces of equipment that are spread across the factory floor. So that's a big part of of why we started this journey is to put something like that together.
That really kind of illustrates one of the themes where the workplace, in the workplace now, the workers, especially in a production environment, they are your customer, your digital signage customer. So you're almost listening to their feedback. How can I make your day easier?
100%. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was a whole new communication vehicle. So none of us knew how to navigate it. So we did our best to create things that we thought would be useful. But then we had to really open up our ears and listen to feedback from the floor. And then we started to get not only tweaks to what suggestions as to how to tweak what we built, but even more important, we got new ideas for dashboards or even static graphics that would support their needs. And that's where we think the real riches were.
So learning to listen to your workforce and add things in or take things out. Marissa, did you have a similar experience where you kind of put your ear to the ground and hear what people like, what they don't like?
Yeah, so we're actually, we recently went through a merger about a year ago. So we're going through some changes, obviously, within our industry. And we recently have done a digital signage survey to both parts of both companies, because one company was centralized and one company was not centralized with their digital signage. As in one company was on the platform and one wasn't. And so we've done a survey, and we're taking those survey results now and using those to obviously better communicate with our employees moving forward. But it was a great way for us to hear what they were saying. And so that was a good approach on our end.
I love that. I love that. And these are kind of broad strokes, but I really want to get down to the granular, the nitty gritty, the brass tacks. Starting with you, Marissa, can you share some examples specifically of how these digital signs have impacted company culture, even enhanced your productivity?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, because of the recent merger, we're still rolling out our company culture to our employees. We've actually recently completed a culture survey, and we're using those results to better communicate, celebrate, and collaborate with our workforce. And so this is a great opportunity for us to use our digital signage, for us to share our company culture, and for us to allow our employees to champion that new company culture that we're driving here. And in terms of productivity, obviously because of the merger, we had to get over half of our workforce into a new HR system. And our goal was to get 70% of our employees into that new HR system, because we needed our employees, all 26,000, to complete open enrollment. And we decided to take full advantage of our digital signage during that time. We had a 2-week period to get them into the HR system, and then another 2-week period to get them enrolled in open enrollment. And we shut down all content except that content and did a big push and a big campaign on our digital signage. And when it was all completed, we also posted daily leaderboards on our digital signage, which promoted a friendly competition between all of our complexes. And at the end, we had over 90% of our employees logged into our HR system, and over 98 of our employees completed open enrollment, which was a huge win for us. And we obviously blew our goals out of the water. So that was something really exciting that we did recently in terms of productivity and using our digital signage to, complete a task.
Wow, that's 98%. That's insanely cool.
98%.
And one of the takeaways for the audience, if you're taking notes, digital signage is not a chore. Sometimes it feels like a chore if you're getting new into digital signage. It's a tool that's going to make your day better. It helps you communicate. I'm curious, Oscar, I want to hear about your stories, but we have a quick question from Kevin. Do you include QR codes on your digital signage and collect engagements and metrics, like even for this open enrollments?
We did include, I don't have those metrics right here in front of me, but we did include QR codes. Obviously the QR codes, it would take you straight into the system and allow you to log in. That's where we sent people. We sent people straight into the system. And then the same thing for, open enrollment. And we've seen a positive use of QR codes, and it's a way we run into with digital signage is, you want to put so much on your screens, but you can only put so much. So sometimes it's a, scan here for more, or, you scan the QR code and it takes you where you need to be. It might be a social post with a fun story that we posted about an employee volunteering, or about Women in Ag Month or something like that. But we do use QR codes on our digital signage. And
That's
that was
amazing.
something that really developed more in the COVID years, because before COVID, a lot of us weren't using QR codes, but it's a common thing that nowadays. And if you go to a restaurant, you're scanning a QR code to look at the menu. So it's something that most people are familiar with. So we feel comfortable using it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm curious, Oscar, do you have a few specific examples similar to Marissa, where this kind of revolutionized your company culture and giving you that productivity? I know it's a little different in your environment.
Yeah, for sure. I thought, when I think about this question, I think about it from two perspectives. So one, in terms of the culture, we, over the last 5 years, our campus has seen a ton of investment in construction and remodeling. And part of that story was the introduction of our digital signage system. And so I already mentioned how, and so coupled together, those two have really completely transformed what the inside of our buildings look like. I've already expressed, that our campus does amazing things. So, I mean, it really feels, I've worked at the company for 20 years and it has a new feeling to it. We finally feel like we have a facility that matches our amazing capabilities. And it really does change the culture. Like especially, I would imagine the new employees who have no experience with our company. This is the way we want to present ourselves to that new generation of employees coming in. So we're very proud of that. Very excited about the new face that we present to anybody visiting or even our employees themselves. But in terms of specific examples, and I'll dive back into like our data-driven digital signage. We had a project in one of our production areas. So I'll just quickly paint the picture. We have a group, a production area, or production group that's spread out over multiple labs in a building. And 5 of those labs, they house a number of ovens. And so if you're a technician or a floor lead and you're responsible for keeping an eye on those ovens, making sure they don't drift out of spec. And again, they're processing flight hardware, right? Very, very expensive hardware. Many years maybe have gone into that hardware in the building and testing of it. They're very important to us. And so normally you have humans having to walk the floor, having to, check each oven. And so now we've connected those ovens, brought those into a dashboard that can be accessible at your desk or from home. But also, if you're on the factory floor, we'll push those directly out to one of our digital signage monitors, so a manager can get a bird's eye view of how the ovens are operating, how close they are to any threshold or any limits, and they can respond quickly if anything goes incorrectly. So in that way, it greatly impacted our productivity. Because now there's less of that waste due to motion, unnecessary motion.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it sounds like, did you have any resistance at the beginning from maybe the older generation of workers as you started moving into digital signage?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely, not everyone can see the value in it, and it takes a little bit of showing them what it could be. I have this kind of saying that I use with the team that sometimes we want to start at the end. We want to show them like what it could be, to inspire them to see, okay, what is their part of this story? How do they contribute to this, or how do they make that end vision, that end state better? So definitely there were some early adopters that were incredibly excited about it. They got it immediately. And then there were people that needed some encouraging and some more sales to dictate to them, how it would benefit them. One of our key things that we took away is the placement of that monitor. So we're talking about the production floor. People's focus need to be on the hardware they're building and testing, and we don't want to distract from that. And so if we didn't get the location properly aligned with the lab layout and where the benches are going to be located, then we're going to have a little bit of some conflicts. So when we first implemented, nobody had moved in. It was brand new construction. So we just put monitors where we thought was best. Then the people moved in and we had to go back and recalibrate, move a couple of monitors to make sure we weren't being distracted and it wasn't in the way. But yeah, that's.
So kind of like Marissa was getting at, listen to your end users, see what their needs are, be willing to adjust. Don't just have a top down, this is the way it's going to be, deal with it. You're trying to give them a tool that's going to help them, which is going to help you.
100%.
I love that. I love that. And we've got some great audience questions, so I'll try to go fast because we've got some really juicy ones. One other question I had for you guys, starting with you, Marissa. In industries with stringent regulations, safety protocols like aerospace and food production, how do you balance that need for compliance with fostering open communication and innovation across your teams without regular access to traditional corporate communications?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before about, some of the main content that we push down from a corporate level is safety content, because safety is, obviously our top priority for our employees. And we have a different safety topic of the month that we push down every month. So that's been something that has been really good to, like reinforce our safety guidelines and protocols. And also our employee benefits, like we want our employees to use their benefits, and we want them, mental health and their vision and dental and things like that. We want them to know and remember that, they have those resources, as well as diversity. Like diversity is like very important to us, and we want to celebrate and recognize our employees in the industry. But our team also wants our complexes to know that like we're here to support them and we want them to succeed. So we put templates in place and are continue to make improvements to our digital signage systems and an upcoming expansion to our digital signage platform to better communicate with our workforce. It's important with the new with the merger that our employees begin to recognize our new company brand, because it is a new company brand. And I try to be aware as much as possible about how much content is going live on the screens, because I know our employees are in these break rooms on their breaks and on their lunches. And I have about a 10 to 30-minute window during those times to get their attention and communicate a message effectively to them during that window of time. So I monitor our screens and I make sure that they're going to get the message that they need within that window, that they'll be in there for a break or in there for their lunch.
So a great rule of thumb for folks when you're designing your digital signage: keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it brief, make it punchy, make it hit.
Yes.
I love that. Oscar, have you had some similar experiences? I know you have some unique, maybe security issues too that you're dealing with communications.
Yeah. I mean, one of our challenges when we're making these high reliability space products is that oftentimes you can't send a repair person out to space to go and fix something. So we really have to get it right. And so we have lots of checks and balances to make sure that things are processed correctly through the production floor. One example comes to mind, when I think about your question in terms of how we reinforce this, like necessary to, or how we reinforce the messaging of compliance. Back in the day when I was a line manager, that was very much a face-to-face, one-on-one staff meetings, very verbal, communication to the production staff. And we still have that today. But now with digital signage, we complement that message, right? We reinforce that message automatically. So my big example for this project that I was a part of, I'm very proud of, anyone who builds electronics, or especially high reliability electronics, they understand the importance of the environmental conditions. So if it's a really dry day, you have the potential for damaging your electronics through static discharge. So we really, really care about the relative humidity within our labs. So back when I was a lab manager, I had to walk around and check sensors around the lab in our winter months. But now we have a new system that gathers all that data from the floor and pushes all that information to a database. Introduce our digital signage system, we now go harvest that data from that database, and we present it. And we don't present it in a dashboard that you have to go and navigate and look up your lab. No, we custom tailor the lab data to your lab. We have multiple production facilities on our campus, so we tailor the message for the lab. These are your sensors. This is your northeast corner. This is how your humidity is happening there. Very proud of that in its own. On top of that, we set in thresholds. So it's not just a matter of knowing where we're at in that spectrum of relative humidity, but also how close are we to some threshold where our mitigation strategy has to change. Maybe we have to turn on ionizers, or maybe you have to stop all work completely. So we put in those thresholds to automatically change, dynamically change the digital signage and tell the technician as a reminder, like they're already trained, they know what to do. But as a reminder, it tells them, don't forget, you have to take these steps now that we're in this, these environmental conditions.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. And just super briefly, I think we're at the 20-minute mark. I do want to pause, and I think we're going to introduce a poll from Populo. And don't be shy, folks. We're not going to read out the results on the air. It looks like, so poll number 1, are you interested in learning more about how your business can benefit by leveraging digital signage to reach disconnected workers? And that's going to be open to you guys to vote. And again, don't be shy. We're not going to be sharing your answers live here on the air. Now, since we've got so many amazing questions here, I want to parse down. Let's see if we can get through here because we've got some great audience questions. Given the diverse skill sets and backgrounds of your frontline employees, and I'll start with you, Marissa, how do you ensure that knowledge transfer and learning opportunities are effectively facilitated in the organization?
Yeah, so in terms of knowledge transfer and learning opportunities, our screens are mostly focused for our hourly employees. So in terms of knowledge, we try to give them all the tools that they need. And that, circling back, that's what we do with our safety content. Like Oscar said, we use it as a reinforcement because it's so important. But yeah, so that's how we probably use that to ensure knowledge transfer within our organization.
Maximizing the power of that communications tool. I love that. I love that. And Oscar, did you have anything to add to that?
Well, honestly, the questions, it paints a picture where we could improve. Currently we have really pretty old school approaches, mentorship, cross training, but not anything related to digital signage. But I could see how we could use our digital signage to communicate across various labs. Maybe there's new opportunities. Maybe there's a new position in a different lab, an area that someone wants to grow. They want to have experience. We could push that messaging out to all the labs, all the opportunities. Maybe there's upcoming trainings, lunch and learns, that kind of information. We could push that out to the floor.
I love that. Digital signage, there's infinite room to change your approach and to grow. That's one of the powers of the medium. Now, Oscar, I'll start with you on this one because I think this speaks specifically to your journey. With the challenges of scale, especially if you're new to bringing digital signage to your organization, how do you pull that off?
Yeah, it has definitely been a journey. Like I said, or maybe in our previous conversations, in a large organization, there can be a lot of headwinds to your expansion and your growth. I can only speak from my perspective. Obviously, what we found success in is one, we looked for funding opportunities. So when there was a new project coming or there was a new enterprise initiative, like a wave coming, right? They come in waves. We saw, okay, how can we align with those goals? And like you said earlier, digital signage is very versatile. You can use it to communicate many things. So we have a great push for health and safety. Boom, let's talk to health and safety people and see how we can help them out, right? We have a great need to improve our recruitment. Okay, man, we're part of that story too. So being very flexible and looking for those, writing those funding opportunities and those other larger initiatives, making yourself part of that story. Keeping an ear out for that, putting yourself in a place where you're hearing about those opportunities, and then another big part of ours, this is the end of my answer, is being able to collect those use cases so that when you approach a new customer internal to your company, being able to demonstrate what you've been able to do, the successes that were there, putting that almost like a pitch together. And being able to communicate that value is very powerful.
Marissa, would you say you agree with that? Any additional thoughts there?
Yeah, so when I joined the company 8 years ago, we had a very small digital signage platform. We were on a system, and since then we have more than doubled our digital signage, and we're about to double it again. What we found out is that our leadership was very, very, very supportive of it. It was something that they thought was very important. And during COVID, we basically doubled all of our screens in all of our break rooms because it was, something that they felt like was very important. And it also gave us an opportunity to communicate in some additional languages to some of our employees that don't speak English. So we were able to designate a specific screen in our break rooms for other languages that we had, a lot of employees in those break rooms that speak that language. So thankfully in my world, our leadership has always seen a value in it, which has been great for me. And so, I encourage you to, talk to Populo because they're a great resource, and they can give you the tools that you need to move your digital signage forward.
Well, this ties into, and again, I feel bad because there's literally like 30 amazing questions. We don't have time for all of them, but Lydia asked a great question that ties into both of your answers. I love the power of digital signage, Lydia says. Is there a way that you've managed to gauge engagement or views for the digital signage? Do you have some strategies on that?
We struggle with this as well. One of the things though that I know is that if someone picks up the phone and calls me and tells me that my screen is down somewhere, then guess what? That means somebody's paying attention to it. So when I get calls like that and when I get emails like that that's saying, hey, something's not working, it's because an employee in that break room has told somebody that it's not working because they're seeing those screens and they're looking for those messages. So we have employees eager to look at our screens. So we're also, very thankful in that as well.
That's amazing.
I would just add that, earlier we talked about getting feedback from the floor to optimize the messaging that you're putting out there. Well, along with that gathering of feedback, you can also ask them questions about how helpful this is to you, trying to quantify, the impact of this. And we were doing that twice a year, and so we've been live since 2019. So now we have a couple of data points to show an upward trend. Even asking questions in terms of, have you suggested content to be put there? Maybe you've asked for your manager to put something up there, and also a sense of like quality. Are we putting out messaging? Is like the system down, like Marissa said? Like asking questions in terms of, last month, did you see the system down at all last month? Asking everybody in the production floor that, gathering those kind of metrics and adding that to your story, I think it goes a long way. Until we get to the point where we have technology out there, measuring your eyeballs, which it's out there, it's going to be difficult. And so you might have to take extra manual approach to pull that data.
Well, I think we have about 30 seconds each, and I'm going to try to tie together a few questions, starting with you, Marissa. What's your one top piece of advice for communications managers and others trying to just get started in the digital signage communications game?
The first piece of advice that I have is literally set up a demo, because you will be blown away just like I was. I mean, I feel like it was 6-7 years ago that we've, been on this journey, and it's only gotten better. So yeah, just set up a demo and hear what, the team at Populo has to say, because they want you to succeed just as much as you want to succeed. And digital signage communication is very important, especially for a workforce that's not, that's deskless. And we're very thankful that we had it in place during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we were thankful that we were able to, make an expansion during that pandemic as well.
Great answer. I love that. And Oscar, we've got 30 seconds left. What's your top piece of advice?
I love the demo idea. I would, to really make use of the capability, you want to get someone that's strong in graphics on the team. You got that will wow people. If you show up and you have an engineer like me trying to put something out there, it's not going to wow your leadership the way an artist can wow them.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, Oscar and Marissa, this was an amazing panel. I think I learned stuff from you guys. This was a fantastic conversation. I want to thank Populo for hosting. I want to thank everybody who attended and shared so many amazing questions. And I believe there's going to be at the close some ways for you to stay in touch if you have additional questions for the team. But thank you, everybody. This has been fantastic.